Yeah. So we're still looking at Proverbs chapter 3, verse 7 and 8, but 7 will be focusing on, which says, do not be wise in your own eyes. And as I was just preparing this morning, that just reminds me of Romans chapter 12, verse 3. Romans chapter 12, verse 3, after Paul are talking about that we should offer ourselves a living sacrifice, we should be transformed by the renewing of our mind. He now talks about the way we think about ourselves. It says, for I say through the grace given to me to everyone who is among you, not to think of himself or herself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly as God has dealt to each one a measure of faith. I'd written about this a while ago, and what Paul was just saying is that we should be accurate in our thinking. In a sense, it kind of parallels Proverbs 3:7, which says we should not think of us. We should not think, how does Proverbs 3:7 say? It says we should not be wise in our own eyes. Romans 12:3, Paul is saying that we should not think more highly of ourselves as we ought to. He's not saying that we should not have a good thought of ourselves. It just says that our thought of ourselves should be moderated by how God has given us faith, by our true strength in God, by the grace that God has given to us. Just saying that we should be brutally honest with ourselves, as we think of ourselves, should be accurate in our thinking. We should not expose of ourselves to areas where we don't have grace in, and that still goes back with the Lord's Prayer. It says, lead us. Well, the real rendition says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. It's just saying in our walk, God deliver us from evil. One of the ways God delivers us from evil is not to expose us to things that are beyond the strength that we have, and that's what First Corinthians chapter 10:13 says there's no trouble that has come to you except that which is common to man, that which is a human problem, and the Bible says that God will not expose us to that which is beyond us. It gives us opportunity to be able to stand in the place of the weight of life. That's what God does. But we ourselves can expose ourselves to things that are beyond us. If we walk under grace, we'll never come to a place that will be exposed to things that are beyond us. But when we come away from grace and begin to, do things in our own strength, do things in our own seeming understanding, do things out of a place of pride, do things thinking more highly of ourselves than we ought to, thinking that we are wise in our own eyes, we begin to expose ourselves to things and places that might be bigger than the faith and strength we have at that point in time, right? So if we live to God, God will never bring us to a place that we face things that are beyond the strength that He has given us. God never do that, but we can ourselves expose ourselves to those type of situations, and we do that in a place of pride, in a place of anxiety also, because we are too scared. Oh, am I missing? If I don't do that, I might do this. Worry puts us into trouble. Worry never protects us from trouble. Worry makes us go into things that we should not go to because we think we are missing. We think that if we don't do it now, we might not get it again. Oh, if I don't do it now, the opportunity might not come again. So we compromise, we lower our standard because we are scared, that if I don't do it now, we think that our life is controlled by the things we do or not do. We're not looking at the grace of God, we're not looking at providence, then we might expose ourselves to things we should not expose ourselves to. But